Today we are implementing Model Context Protocol in NextJS with Vercel hosting to power Recoupable's music industry assistant. Watch as we code real-time Perplexity search integration, build server-sent events for streaming responses with powerful Recoup API tools for assistants and fans, all for artists. This is MCP in action, transforming how the music industry leverages AI through modern web architecture. This weekend, I was doing a hackathon down here in Buenos Aires, and I was hacking beside a guy named Tomas from Brazil. And he was building an MCP server, and he was nice enough to share that server with me. Let me pull that server up, and I'm actually going to link it in the QR to have that be the first little QR that I share today, so that if you want to see the foundation that I built on, you can see the hackathon project that was built by Thomas, and you can start from there. So I'll update my start here QR code, save it. And now if you check in the top left of the stream, you should see a start here QR code, which has the GitHub that was written originally by Tomas. And so if you want to just see the original, this is the inspiration that we're building today. The goal is to fork this. One, I'm going to make it into a Next.js app. Right now, it's not Next.js. It's just general JavaScript. So I want it to be Next.js. I also then want to add in all this MCP framework. And so I'm going to then pull in Thomas's libs to make kind of a clone of his server to verify I can make an MCP server. And then finally, I'm going to update this with the docs from Recoup. That way I can have an MCP server that works for the API that we're building at Recoup. So that internally, we can just have an MCP server that works for all the chats that we're running. As you can see, like here's the chats are getting much smarter now with reasoning as well as with tool calls. And so the script that I said at the start of this was written by Recoup. The title of this stream was written by Recoup. And we're really trying to level up Recoup at a much faster clip with shorter iteration times, smaller little bits of work, but more focused on making this assistant as best as it can be for me and my own personal growth as an individual creator. And so the whole goal of this video is for me to create an MCP server. So far, MCP servers feel a little bit complex, and I don't know how I can just get a simple link that I can use as an MCP server. And so my goal is to do that. Let's host an MCP server on Vercel using Next.js. So that way it becomes easy for us to, whenever we want to build out a new library for an AI, we can spin up a new MCP server, host that MCP server on Vercel. No hosting costs because it's on Vercel, so it's entirely for free. We can build it all open source and keep this flywheel flowing. Step one, let's go over to my linear and let's look at the first task so that everybody's aware, and then we'll start implementing it. The project currently does not exist. There's no code base, no version control, no deployment pipeline. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run create next app, next MCP. And so I've got a terminal open. I'm just going to paste that command, and this is going to create that project repository for me. It's asking if I want the latest version. I absolutely do want the latest version. And the reason I'm going through this route is I know it's going to give me the latest version of Next. And I want to be building on the top version of all these frameworks. So that's why I'm starting with create next app, give me the latest version of all the packages I'm going to want to use. And then I'm going to bring in all those MCP tools that I'm going to want from Thomas's into my top tier Next.js project. Make sure that it all deploys, make sure that it still works, and then I'll change that example into the Recoup example. So that way it's working with the Recoup APIs that I actually want it to be working with. So the first time I'm going to be deploying an MCP server, I'm very excited. The 0 to 1 is always the challenge, because you have this like MCP is a big buzzword and everybody's talking about it right now. But when you try to actually download it and use it inside of one of your apps, it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's all open source, but it feels very distinct and different from app to app how I actually integrate these MCPs. And so I want to get my hands deeper into it. I learn best through experience. And so if I can just practice in a live stream right now and get something out in 60 minutes, a fresh app, not only am I able to iterate faster, go from 0 to 1 in 60 minutes, but anybody else who's watching this can see the exact state of mind I was in before I got started with my first MCP the exact steps I followed to build my first MCP and host it on Vercel. And then where I'm starting to think through next and the questions I'm planting in my head in order to grow from here, from a prototype into a full-fledged business that I'm using to better my own individual practice and the practice of those that I'm working with in the music industry. While we're waiting for this, I'm going to go ahead and create a new repository on GitHub. Let's go to my repositories. Create a new one. And we'll call this Next MCP. This is MCP that you can host on Vercel using Next. Easy hosted free MCP server hosting using Vercel. Make it public, obviously. Everything is open source. Now we've got our Git repository. We're still installing packages. I'm going to end up deleting those packages to use pnpm. So a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. While we're waiting, I think I'm going to do a little demo of some of the new updates that we've got. So can you help me demonstrate the new reasoning that we've added into the recoupable chat? So we've added reasoning, and so you'll see that in the chat when you send a new message, it starts thinking, and then the first thing that you get back is the reasoning text, and then after it reasons, it then goes and actually executes. It sounds like you want to demonstrate reasoning capabilities. First, understand that the reasoning capabilities of Recoup demonstrate, since I don't have specific information about the new yada yada, I'll ask Perplexity. And so this is explaining the second part, which is the MCP tools. And so we also now give it tools using MCP servers so that if Recoupable, the assistant, needs to do something, it can then make that tool call, go out and do a search, use Recoup, do queries on Spotify, scrape a new profile on Instagram, and then it can inject those tool calls directly in whatever order it thinks. And so there's the prompt, there's the reasoning step, there's tool call steps, and then there's finally the output step that we get with the Recoupable chat. And all of that's live. So if you want to test it, you can just go on to chat.recoupable.com and you can start chatting away and seeing these new updates. But that was mostly just to save some time. We've now got a new repo, Next MCP. Since I've just created my Git repository, I'm going to plug it into that. And we're just going to straight go up for a deployment. So I'll copy this. Let's git remote add origin, paste the URL, git remote -b to verify. I can see my new repos there. Git status. I'm on main, there's nothing to commit. Let's try git push origin main and see if all of our code gets pushed. We just pushed. We should be able to refresh and see our fresh code. We now have a code base. Let's take this code base and connect it into Vercel so that we can share this link with all of our friends. I'll go to Vercel. Vercel is what we use to deploy all of our code for free. Git is what we use to store all of our code for free. And so Git is where we store our code. It's all free, open source, public. Same thing with Vercel. You just go there, you can start hosting your code, no cost to get a link that you can share with anybody. Bring both of these together and it keeps our dev stack super lean, very affordable for any dev, whether you're in Mumbai, India, or Columbus, Ohio, or down here in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's accessible infra that any person can use to vibe code whatever it is they're imagining. We'll create a new project once you've signed into your Vercel account. Again, it's free. All right, next MCP is already showing up. Let's import it and let's deploy it. With that, we should be done and have our MCP all ready to go. I don't even think we necessarily need to verify. It might be good for us to verify, but we don't need to. Let's try with cursor.slash. It'll open up Cursor, which is our AI-powered IDE. Now that we're opening that up, I can move our terminal down lower, bring our Cursor app up to replace it. And here's the Next.js project that we have created. I'll try running this. The first step I'll do is I'm going to check out my new branch, and we're going to make a tiny pull request just to change it from npm to pnpm. I take my linear ticket, and in the top right, I have a copy branch name. I use that to link the work I'm going to be doing with a ticket so that it's easier for us to do our project management at the beginning and end of sprints. Click the 3 dots in the top left to open up our version control. Click the 3 dots to go to more options. Check out to. Paste that branch name and enter to create new branch. Publish the branch. And now when we go back to Vercel, we should see a new branch with a new pull request is automatically kicked off. But it might not because we're still on our initial build. And so I'll just get started building this. I'll delete package lock. I'll also delete, I'm not going to delete node modules yet. And then that'll be it for now. And let's add in a new file called roadmap.md. This is my roadmap. And I'm not going to commit this file, so I'll add this into the git ignore. There should be a miscellaneous section. And so inside of the miscellaneous section, I'll add my roadmap file into there. And with that, I can now start adding the tasks that I've defined inside of linear right here, which is going to make it easier for me to communicate that with the bot. As I'm saying this, I'm thinking it would be great if I used an MCP server to connect my IDE with linear so that I can just reference the ticket and it reads it, and then I can get rid of this roadmap. But there's also something to showing my overall train of thought and how we're dealing with these tasks one at a time. And so I'm not going to overthink what the ideal is. Our current goal is to ship an MCP server onto NextJS so that we can host it for free using Vercel. Right now, I am adding in some of the steps I plan to tackle while we're here on this call, on this live stream, so that I don't need to do it later on and I can batch all this work into one solid block of time. With that, we should be ready to go. I have deleted that. Let's open up the terminal with Command J, and now pnpmi is what we should use to now install node modules is being ignored, installed by a different package manager. All right, now it's going through and downloading. Let's check in on our deployment. Our deployment has been successful. If we continue to the dashboard, do we see a new deployment for that branch that I pushed? Or did it miss it because it wasn't ready? If I go to deployments, it only has main right now, so we don't have a deployment for our branch yet. I add roadmap to git ignore. Let's see if this push will trigger. I'll push this just to get a build out, and then I'm also going to add my pnpm lock and say npm to pnpm. And with that, those are the only changes I really wanted to make in this pull. You can see that we're now getting builds automatically triggered, and when we come back, our pull request is automatically being prompted. This is a very simple PR, and it's just mostly testing that we're all set up with our application. Now that we're all set up, we'll get this merged, and then we'll shift into the actual first step of work, making an MCP server. Okay, Google, volume down. It's a little loud. In order to ship my PR, I'm going to open up Slack. Okay, Google, volume down. Let's bring Slack over, go into my code review channel. here, let's share our first pull request of the day. This is for Recoup. And inside of here, I'll take the pull request. I've already shared that. Come back up to my first ticket. Copy the link to the ticket. We've shared our ticket. Now we should be able to test it. So I'll copy the link, say test here. Very basic, just NextJS. It's got a deploy now button. With that, let's ship it. Okay, Google, volume down, please. All right, now we merge and let's move on. Current cadence is 16 minutes per pull request. Let's see if we keep that up throughout this video. 16 minutes I'm very happy with in terms of cadence. 16 minutes seems to be like my running, my sprinting pace. Now that we've shipped that PR, let's move on to the next one. How do I want to get Thomas's code? I think what I want to do is I want to clone his repository, and then I want to copy the entire project into mine, and then have him, and that way it's easier. It's an easier reference for Cursor to have. I know it's not the most efficient, but I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'll go down to this one. I've already got my pull request linked. Again, you can scan that QR in the top left to get to the same pull request that I'm referencing from Thomas. And I'm going to code this, copy it inside of here. I'm going to make a directory called reference. And then I'm going to go inside of reference, and then I'm going to git clone the project. Please help me implement step 2 following this reference repository. Bring any necessary libs into the main Next.js app, focusing on API server. Focusing on API server. I think it's /SSE. SEE? No, it's got to be SSE. Is SSE anywhere in this code base? Simple HTML. Handles the SSE endpoint. Uses Redis to subscribe. Oof. I don't know what any of this stuff means. Let's just send it and see what it does. Let's change directory out of here, and from here try pnpm dev to try to run our server and see how it looks right now. Go to localhost 3000. Should be showing me my fresh next project. We got quite a few things open, so let me try to clean some of this out. I'm going to keep Recoup open just because I like chatting with it. Adding in reasoning and MCP really stepped up the quality of the chat for me. Okay, we're now running locally. add raw body Redis. Okay, let's just add those. I'll open up a new terminal so that I can keep my server running. And then pnpm I, let's install those packages. Whoops. pnpm please verify and continue. Now that we have our own GitHub repository, well, I still haven't verified that the MCP works, so I won't update the QR code to the new repo until I've verified that my new MCP server actually works. I want to make sure that during this entire video, if you ever decide you want to get started and you're ready to jump in and deploy your own MCP server, you can scan the QR code in the top left, download that repo, host it on Vercel for free, and then you've got an MCP server that you can start linking out into any of your AI projects, whether it's your Cursor ID locally, if you're got the Claude AI app on your local machine, if you're building an AI project like I am and you're using Vercel AI SDK, everything has the plugin for MCP at this point. And so getting a single link makes it way easy for you to plug in any tool. And so that's why I'm focused on this and why I'm excited about the opportunities it's going to present. Lib directory and handler file. Okay. Okay, I want to get Thomas's libs in. Nice, so now we got a new lib folder. And we've got initialize MCP API handler. And then we're creating a client. MCP server, look at this. Now let's create the server route to handle. We'll create this in the app API directory. Sounds great. So now we've got /API/SSE, which has example tool. And now a message endpoint handler. I don't know why we need a message endpoint handler. This is inside of API message, server and capabilities. This feels random to me. And now we've got an env local with Redis and KV URL. Don't know what those are. App lib. This is the core MCP API handler that manages SSE connections and message handling through Redis. API SSE route, the SSE endpoint that handles SSE connections and tool registrations. Messages route, the messages endpoint that handles individual messages. env local, configuration for Redis configuration. You'll need to have Redis running locally or provide a Redis URL through the environment variables. The implementation uses server send events. The handler supports tool registration. There are some TypeScript. Okay, let's just see if this deploys. I'm just going to copy this. I need to check out my new branch. So I'll copy the branch name, come back into Cursor, check out to. new branch, just add it all. Copy my roadmap, commit it, publish the branch. Let's pull from main. And let's sync the changes. I also wanted to update the home page to be the same as the index, wherever that is, public, index. Update the home page design to match the reference. Perfect. Looks like there's some errors in some of these files. Let's see if we can find them. What's the error? It's not like in the any. Can I get rid of these? Let's just disable it. All right, fix those. Same thing here. And over here too, over here too. Declared but never read. All right, I think we might have just fixed all of our build errors. Let's test fix build errors from any typing. Sync those, and let's check out the build. Yep, so there's our errors. Hopefully we've just fixed them. Let's see if the error for the fail was something different than what we've been fixing. Servers defined but never used inside of message route. Looks like that's gone. SSE route. I'm not seeing any errors over here. Let's see if they're fixed. I think we might have fixed them all. Typical builds are about 40 seconds, so we're very fast, but we did just get an error. Error is on which route? Redis URL environment variable. Let me see if Recoup can help with this. Can you help debug? Redis instance inside of Vercel? Question mark. Is it possible to set up a Redis instance inside of Vercel? Hopefully it's going to go and use Perplexity. Looks like it did some reasoning. Use Vercel KV. Vercel KV. Let's see if this is right. All right. Install Vercel KV. I don't know what this is, so let me just verify it's a real thing, because this is the first time I'm getting coding advice from Recoup. Introducing Vercel KV, Redis on Vercel. Integrate high-performing caching, real-time data in your Vercel projects. Okay, let's go back and check out Vercel KV. Serverless durable Redis database. So Vercel KV is interesting. So would this mean that we could use Vercel KV instead of Redis? It makes sense to use Vercel KV instead of Redis. Would it make sense to use Vercel KV instead of Redis? Serverless and managed. Vercel KV is fully managed, serverless, Redis compatible database that's designed specifically to work with Next.js. This means no need to manage our own Redis server, automatic scaling, built-in high availability, easy integration since we're already using Next.js and deploying with Vercel. Vercel KV provides native integration. Perfect for our use case. Our application needs Redis for session management for SSE applicant connections, message queuing between clients, state management for real-time updates. These are perfect. All right, let's do it. We're going to follow. We got the seed from Recoup, but we're using it inside of Cursor. All of the AI connects, but I'm using Recoup as my go-to instead of Chat or Anthropic because it is focused on social and on my music. And again, if you're just tuning in the top left corner, we have a QR code that you can use to get started building your first MCP server on Next.js. This video is a quick start into how we do it. Package. Please verify and continue. And so we've started from zero. We started with nothing running, and now we are working on setting up our first MCP server. The first thing we've run into is we need some sort of cache. And so we need Redis is what the original reference was using. Vercel already offers something called Vercel KV, which is going to be a stateless and easier implementation for us to use than having to figure out Vercel. Redis, I'm sorry, because I'm not familiar at all with Redis and I don't want to learn it. And I'm already building everything on Vercel. So I'm just going to use Vercel KV and then brush under the rug the fact that I know nothing about Redis and just hope that this will be a good response. Because right now we're using Redis for create client, and I'm hoping that with Vercel KV, we can get rid of any reason to use Redis, which is one less thing that I need to understand, which is one less thing that you, the viewer, and any other builder around the world will need to understand, making it that much easier to get started building your own MCP server, quick, at low cost, in a scalable and robust way. Our 3 steps that we're working through today. Number 1, we have created a new project using Create Next app. We're now on step 2 of trying to get a template set up for an MCP server. And after that, I'm going to update the tools. I'm going to update the tools to be Recoup focused tools instead of generic MCP tools. Looks like we have swapped out. We're no longer using Redis URL. And now we've got a subscribe to channel function and a publish message function. Looks valid, but again, I have no reference of knowing what Redis is or Vercel KV. This is just, it looks okay, so I'm going to accept it. I'm only continuing to try to understand a little bit better through exposure. Let's save this. env.local KV URL. I don't know where I get this stuff. KV URL is not being used anywhere. Same with this. Also not being used. Also not being used. Is this being used? Nope, not being used. We're going to get rid of all these things that aren't being used, and we're going to push and see if we get a successful build. Let's take this Atom, Redis to Vercel KV. It's the big change in this one. Let's sync and let's jump in to see how we're doing on our deploys. We've been blocked ever since trying to actually make our first change, with errors originally relating to missing environment variables required. Let's see if we now jump past that step now that I have swapped us away from using Redis and into using Vercel KV. We've already got a new error. Let's see what it is. Failed to compile. App lib MCP API handler. Let's go into app lib MCP API handler. There's an error down here. Quick fix. Disable. Disable. Save. Same thing over here. Whoa, whole lot of stuff changed over here. Looks like we might have an error. Looks like we might have just gotten rid of that error. Got rid of that error. Fixing build errors related to typings. What other errors do we have on page? I think those are the only ones. I think we just fixed the only errors that we have. So let's check it out again and see if we're getting any closer. Why am I spending time focusing on this? Well, I think right now there's a lack of MCP servers. The best place I go when I want to build MCP servers is I go to mcp.so. This allows me to just get a URL for any MCP server that I want. I just plug in an API key and then it gives me a URL so that I don't have to worry about hosting the MCP server. But there's still a lot missing. Like, I don't even think that they have stuff like linear, or maybe I just missed it. But yeah, I might just be missing some of what they already have. But let's see if they've got linear. I don't see an official linear integration in here. So all of these are going to be unofficial launches. And it's finding GitHub MCP servers that I could clone and use. This isn't even an example of a hosted one. So here's an example. Linear does not have a hosted MCP. And so if I can learn how to build these, I can start to deploy the gap in what's missing. Give me just a URL. I don't want a GitHub repo. I'm small brain. I don't know how to use that. I want a URL that I can take and use. And so while mcp.so is showing me a vision for how I can submit MCP servers that I build and start to think through building services and tools that AI is going to use on behalf of humans, instead of me building something that's going to take time away from a human, trying to think, well, if humans are going to be spending more and more time leveraging AI to solve tasks, if we can empower those AI, that allows humans to spend less time interacting with technology, empowering the AI to do the tasks better, and allows me to be able to capitalize on where the attention is moving, which is more MCP clients. There's a big gap in it right now, and so that's why we're building this today. We are now deploying the app. Let's see how it looks. I'm scared. I don't think this is going to look good, to be honest. Yeah. Oy. The site was not copied over well at all. Front page code looks pretty awful. Are you sure you've copied the stylings correctly from the original? What was the original in? The original was reference public index, HTML to the root page, NextJS plus Tailwind. Currently, images are way too large. And let me try to get a photo and add the photo and send that out. We're moving in the right direction. I don't know if SSE works. It would probably be API SSE. And it's showing me that that does not work. But it has to be a post, so I don't think my GET request would even work. How can I start to test this? Well, first, let's remove the deployment protection so that I can test even these deployment previews. And then after this, I think I need another app where I'm going to be testing this. So let's go to settings, deployment protection. Let's turn off deployment protection. And one thing that Tomas told me is important is we do need fluid compute. So let's go to functions, turn on fluid compute and save it to make sure, yep, enable this. And let's go into advanced and let's also just jack this up to 360. 60 is the max. So we'll keep it at the max of 60 in the free tier because I don't want to pay. Again, the goal is for this to be accessible and free. What are we working on? Styling isn't quite right, particularly with the images and overall layout. Let me fix this by properly implementing the styles in Next.js with Tailwind. The main issue is that we need to properly constrain the sizes and add some additional styling classes. I would love for it to implement this. I really love how Thomas did his design, and I want to get the same thing. But if it takes too much work to try to copy from his HTML file into our Next.js file, we'll give it one more take here, and if it doesn't work here, what I'll do is I'll copy his raw code into V0 and see if V0 does a better job than Cursor. Are we still running? Looks like we're running, so let me try going to localhost 3000 and see if it's any better now. I don't see anything having changed. So let's go to index, copy this, and we'll go to V0. Can you please make this JavaScript code to Next.js? Not even saying valid English. I only need one of them. Let's send it and see if it does it. If it does it, I should be able to clone it using one simple command, which would be excellent. Let's see if it does better than what Cursor did before. And if it just puts it all inside of one page, that makes it super easy. It's building its own SVGs. Looks like it just finished, and now it's doing a layout page. Got some CSS. Tailwind setup. Fixing the Tailwind setup. How we looking? Page is slowly coming on. First take at, it looks like it cloned it perfectly. Perfect clone in one take. Let's go share. No. Fork. Not fork. Add to code base. Here it is. This is what I want. All right, so I can run npx shad cn. Let's just run it and see what happens. Curious where it adds it. How are we looking over on our version control? Looks like we have some changes to page. I'm not even happy with them, so let's discard them. Let's see what gets installed when I run this command. All the AI tools are connecting. Yep, sure. I like how Vercel just hacked into ShadCN's distribution network. It's exactly what I want to be doing. You know, you just got an npx ShadCN that leverages a file structure that everybody's already used to. Now it's installing the dependencies that we need. We've got a utils function folder now, file now. Page already exists, go ahead and override it. Layout already exists, override it. Global, do it all. It looks like it just directly fixed it. Any better? Currently still seeing weird images. How's our page looking over here? Did it really not fix it? That makes me sad. I might crash the server and try running it again. Right now I'm focusing on the UI instead of the MCP server. I'm most likely focusing my attention ineffectively on a place that it's not best served. I'll give myself another 5 minutes. We'll go to 55, and if I'm still having issues with the homepage, we're gonna leave the homepage unfinished. Homepage by v0 to commit and sync the changes. Failed on the build. Tailwind config.ts. Seem to fix it. Build error. Yeah, still not looking good on my site locally, which is a bummer. Let's see what the git commit changes were. Layout was modified. Page seems to have like a totally different diff. Successful build, let's check it out. Fingers crossed it's not looking like massive images like it was before. Still seeing massive images. Why is that? All right, thinking we have now spent too much time on this without seeing any sort of payout. Why is this so hard to get? It's the images, and they're just massive. But they look fine on Vercel's preview. They only look weird It might be not properly initializing Tailwind. Let's look at Tailwind. Because I know that we have a new definitions for Tailwind, so it might just be that there's new Tailwind stuff and we're not initializing it. Get started. I guess there's a Tailwind CLI. It's just import Tailwind CSS. Let's see if that changes it. That fixed it. I fixed Tailwind CSS import. Okay, so that should fix it. This was a result of new Tailwind updates. Let's see how it looks on mobile. On mobile, it also looks great. This looks excellent. So we've now got our UI, and we should also have the endpoint, but I've only been focused on the UI because that's what I did. Now that we've got the UI, we need to verify the actual endpoint works. How can we verify that the endpoint works? SSE endpoint works in Postman. Can I use Postman to verify? Nice. Okay, so the designs are now looking way better. We're using Thomas's designs now. Looking good. All right, we've got Postman. Let's see if I can recreate the steps. So we'll go to Postman. We will click. This is going to be a GET. It's a GET. I could have swore it was post. API, SSE, route. I guess it does specify both GET and post. So we should be able to go to API SSE. Why wasn't I able to go to that over here? API SSE. Let me try deleting some of these open tabs. /API/SSE. Not seeing anything. So let's try continuing to follow the instructions. I'll copy this for cell URL. We'll update I'll make a new tab. Okay. And then it needs to be /API/SSE. Important, we need headers. We need accept. Text event stream. Unable to type in this box. Accept. Cache control does not exist. Let's add that. And then we should have a connection with value of keep alive. Click on request settings. Go to the settings tab, disable SSL verification. Under general settings, turn off automatically follow redirects. Automatically follow redirects. Max response size. Maximum number of redirects. I do not see a max response size. To test, open another request, post, message, what? I don't know what's going on here. Let's try sending. I got a 500 internal server error. Let's see if I can see the errors. I'm wondering if there's any Redis data cache, purge cache, data cache, advanced, directory listing, SKU protection, maybe in general. For cell, transfer, domains, environment, Git, integrations, KV. All right, storage. Maybe Redis is what I want. Accept and create. 1 free per account. Well, this looks awesome. Let's create that. Done. Is it going to give me the info? Resources required to be active state. Sure. So now I am trying to use Redis. Is it going to tell me the info? Okay, so now it does seem like, all right, let's go back to using Redis and say we do now have a Redis URL. Is it possible for me to cycle these keys, or should I just not expose it here? It's probably going to be best for me to just not expose it. So let's tell it that. Let's try to just Command Z and go back. Let's reject. What do we have now? Now we're looking for Redis URL. And I've decided to use Redis. Let's try to keep the SSE MCP server as close to the reference as possible. Reference, let's go into reference, lib, API, prod, all right, we're going to try to make changes now to the MCP server so that I can get a valid response in my testing from the deployed environment. We want to keep the implementation closer to the reference code. Let's modify the SSE route to match the reference implementation more closely. It's going to go in and make that change. Have I made any changes yet? Yeah, I rolled this back. Let's go ahead and add in the info. So now we'll need a Redis URL. I'm going to move this off screen and I'm going to add an environment variable for Redis URL. Go into Vercel, next MCP, and inside of here, I'll go into an environment variables in my settings. I don't know why it's not letting me go to settings right now. Go to environment variables, inside of here. Now I should be able to see Redis URL is the name. Copy the snippet. Save it. It already exists, so it looks like I don't even need to add it. It's already been added as an environment variable. So the only place I would need to add it if I do want to add it will be inside of my local project. So let me just make sure I've hidden. Yeah, we're good now. Okay. So how are we doing on the code? I understand we want to keep it. Let's check out our route. Whoa. App, lib, let's comment these out. It might just not realize that they're there. Comment them back in. Looks like those imports are good. How are we doing all the way down at the bottom? We keep being told that it's not like in our any's. No more errors inside of this file. Check out over here. Get token price. It's already defined here. I don't know why it didn't use it. Let's just copy all the libs. Get protocol, stablecoins, TVL. I'm going to delete all these files. And now let's just copy all the libs over here into this lib folder. But I actually don't want it inside of, yeah, we should be keeping them, I want them over here, X, inside of here. New folder called MCP. Move all these inside of that folder. What's going on? You don't like something? It's not like in the any's. Let's do some quick fix to disable. Tab, tab, save. We should be good on that file. Any other complaints? Doesn't look like any other complaints. Go back to route. Now we just do @lib. And this needs to be with MCP. Same thing here. And here we've got MCP API handler. Where's that? It's inside of libmcp. No more errors inside of this file. Messages, looks like it's still throwing some errors. This needs updated to @lib, MCP API handler. And so with that, let's try deploying again. New MCP API handler. I'm not fully sure what's going on here. I'm kind of just trying to get something working, muddling through the darkness till we find it. Let's see how our request is coming over here. We're still getting 500. Luckily, our builds are pretty fast. I don't like that we keep getting 404s. Seems like there's a bug in Vercel today. There's an error and I can't even see it. I'm exactly the person who should be signing in. This is my repository. Let me see the failed deployment, please. Let me see that failed deployment. Okay. Cannot resolve Vercel.json instead of MCP API handler. Interesting. MCP API handler. It's inside of lib. MCP API handler. This should actually just be like that. Dot, 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 dot. There is no Vercel. What is Vercel JSON used for? It's only used there, max duration. Let's keep it at let's keep it there. Now we don't need this file, and that's one less error. But we do still have a couple others in this file. I bet they're any's. Nope. Never reassign. Let's make this a const. Here's an any. Quick fix. Disable for this line. One more error. Nope. Here it is. Let's see if this, yep, I think we just want to disable. There we go, that fixed it. By ignoring type errors. We've got another deploy coming down the pipeline. Goal is to get this live so that way we can get in a simple MCP server working. Once we get a simple MCP server working, we can then get into adding recoup. We have already passed an hour into this build, so it's already taken longer than I was expecting. But again, I am in the muddling phase. I am no expert at MCP servers. This is me speed running what my friend Tomas did in an entire hackathon as fast as I can using his reference. Looks like I'm still failing. So I'm not getting those successes, not moving forward. I'm still seeing inside of a route. Cannot reference something inside of the route. We don't need Slack. Let's get it out of there to keep me a little bit faster. And let's try going into that route for SSE. API SSE route, API SSE route, and on line 10. Shouldn't be at lib, it should be lib MCP ifix MCP import. Let's commit and push. And let's try to jump back over here to be on top and shorten this iteration loop until this deployment actually works. Another error. Cannot resolve HTTP inside of MCP API handler. Close others. We're using HTTP here. And I guess I've never installed it. Was it installed inside of Thomas's project? Go inside of the reference, go to package. I don't see HTTP here. That doesn't mean that it's not being used. MCP API handler. I do see HTTP here, so let's just try installing the missing package. pnpmi HTTP. Net and stream as well. pnpmi, and then we also want net stream string decoder. What are you complaining about now? Timeouts never changed. Let's make it a const. I swear we already fixed these. Yeah, we've already fixed. Oh, I'm changing the wrong file right now. I'm modifying reference for some reason. There's no reason for us to be modifying this. Install missing packages, commit, and sync. And let's see if that fixes our failed build. 18 seconds is very fast for a new build, so I'm very happy with this iteration speed, which is normal for when we have a brand new project. Another error, I'm not catching any breaks. It's still unable to resolve HTTP. Even though it now has it. Install missing packages should be adding HTTP into package.json. And it's also added it into our package lock. So I'm confused why it didn't work. Let's try a redeploy with no build cache. It might just be that it already has the packages cached and it's not installing. Another fail. Cannot find TLS crypto. Let's see where these packages are being defined. I don't see TLS being used anywhere. Still seeing cannot resolve HTTP. Debug these build errors in Vercel. Okay, it seems like our handler is not edge compatible right now. Don't know what that means. But it seems like that is important. And so now we're going to get a new handler that is compatible with edge runtime. Let's see what that looks like. We've got an MCP server. Let's accept it. Now it's going to update our route to use the new edge compatible handler. It added it into the wrong place. I don't want anything inside of applib. I want it over here inside of this lib. Get rid of this folder. We don't want it. Delete. And then we'll come back into here. It's complaining about something. Expected 2 arguments, but got 1. Route. Initialize edge MCP handler. See what solution it proposes. What if we went in a different direction and didn't use edge and instead changed our config to not force edge? We're having some issues with the edge handler, period. What would it look like for us to not use edge and try to get the existing MCP server to work? I wonder if I can just tell it to go faster. Right now it's waiting quite a little bit of time. Seems like you just did way worse. Looks like you just did great. I'm not seeing any more issues. Looks like now you're starting to add more issues. Let's keep this here. I'm not seeing any more warnings. I'm not sure why it keeps thinking. Let's try pushing this and see if it works. Fixing. I don't even know what these changes are. I'm getting a little lost. We don't want the edge. Let's get rid of that. Still failing. Edge handler is looking like it's failing. I just deleted that, so hopefully in this next build it's going to be not hitting that error at least. Still failing. Keep changes minimal so that we can stay as close to the reference as possible while getting this to work inside of the NextJS build within Vercel. And now I want to copy the reference. Let's accept. I add API route handlers for get and post. Why are you making more changes? No. Why would we change that? Keep the core, Node.js runtime, get post handlers, convert web to Node. I don't like that. Let's not do that change if we don't have to. Seems like more code to not follow NextJS typings. But it does seem like we failed the build. It has an invalid next API request. It's not valid for the first argument. Revert. MCP handler now needs where's MCP handler even coming from? Server, and what's server? So we had it working, but not as a Next.js project. I'm trying to get this working in Next.js. We need to convert the next request to an incoming message. It's a lot of extra code, so I'm not super happy with it. But it does seem like it made our errors go away. Convert next to request. Goal is to make it work first. So far, it does not work. I'm getting close to my next meeting, so I would like this to work so that I can keep wrapping up this stream and move on to the next parts of this build. Seems like it might be successful this time. Deploying. All right, we've deployed. Page looks like it's loading. I'll go to logs. Let's try hitting it with Postman. Postman says 404 not found. And that's to API SSE. 5. We got a 404 for API SSE with a GET. API SSE route, get. Am I querying the right end? I mean, yeah, it should appear. Next MCP. API SSE, that should be fine. Come back here. Let's take the URL again. Go into logs. Click play. Let's try one more time. I don't think there was any changes there. 404 not found. Getting 404 not found. Why would I be getting 404 not found? Why are you changing this? This doesn't make any sense. All right, let me see if there's a simple Vercel MCP. Maybe I'm Vercel MCP template NextJS. Maybe I'm going about this the wrong way, trying to make it NextJS. Maybe it's just, maybe I shouldn't be trying to use NextJS. Maybe MCP should just not be built with NextJS. Let's view the demo. Hopefully this takes me to GitHub. Yeah, it does. MCP on Vercel. And there's nothing here about NextJS. So in that case, I think I'm putting in way more work than is needed. Let me go back to just using what we had originally. All that I'm going to need to do. So we're going to delete everything except for the reference. Delete. Delete. And now inside of reference, I'm going to move everything out. Now reference is empty. Delete it. Let's try deploying this. New structure. Commit. There are no stage commits. Would you like to stage all changes? Cancel. There's all my changes. Hi. Let's sync them. Let's get out of here. Let's go back to the build. I'm going to definitely need to change how it's trying to deploy this. Let's go into general, transfer, delete, build and deployment. No longer Next.js. It's just going to be other. And let's just save this. Stop. So that's my signal that I got to start getting ready for my meeting. I'm going to try redeploying now that I've set new instructions. Do we already have vercel.json? We do. Okay, it looks like we had a successful deployment, hopefully with all the pages and everything. So this is the original project with no changes. So let's, how can we test this is my next question. Let's copy this, go back to here, send it, and I'm still getting 404 not found. Instead of API SSE, it's probably just SSE because that was what the original was. There we go. Now I'm seeing connected to. So it does seem like we now have a valid SSE server. So what I'll do is I'll come back and make a new pull request. Let's get this opened up, and then we're going to get it stopping here with our first SSE deployed, and we'll try to connect it into our chat if I can quick enough. Open up this pull request, go into main. It's not actually at Next MCP now, so I'm going to need to change the name. This is a big change in what we were doing. Hashtag recoup. So I learned Next is not the way to go when creating MCP. You can still use Vercel for deployment, but we don't need to use Next or create Next app. So if you came into this video thinking I was going to successfully be able to get it working with Next, that is not the case, but I did get it working with Vercel. MCP connection test in Postman. Test here, and I'm just going to ship it. Let's merge the pull request. All that work only to come back to the original was the right answer. I'm going to come over to settings and change the project name to be clear that it is not, we're going to call it MCP Vercel. And from here, let's try plugging this into our code base. So I'll do that by going back to my recoup code base. Let's get out of this. cd ... cd into recoup chat cursor /. Let's open up that repo. I'm going to try to quickly make a ticket. P2 new MCP server in chat, actual missing recoup MCP server, required add recoup first MCP server. Let's create the ticket, slide up into the order I want it in. Let's copy the branch name and let's get started hacking on this. Go over to the 3 get dots, check out 2, our new branch, publish the branch to origin. Are we still running the server? No, we're not. And now we will pull from main. Should auto prompt us to push once again. All right, let's push. And now let's go ahead and try adding in our tools. First thing, we need a client. So we'll make a client and call this Mantle MCP client. And we can get our URL by coming back into our Vercel project. And from here, prod should be deployed. It is. So we can go out to our project, find the domain. And now I can copy this /SSE, take this into my project. Now we've got the mantle, and now we've added it to our tools. That's all we had to do. Let's see if that works. I'm going to push the changes. I add Recoup's first custom MCP server. Let's deploy it from here. And we're going to try to ship this relatively quickly because I got a meeting in 9 minutes. Make sure that it got synced. Okay, it's synced. So now we can go back to Recoupable, the Recoup chat repo. Get rid of some of this. Should be auto prompting me with the pull request. It is. Open the pull request. Let's share this inside of Slack. I shipped this. Get our pull request set up. All right. So as you can see, the changes that we had to make to our chat in order to use the new repo that we set up are very simple. All that we do are we add in a new MCP client with the URL from our deployed MCP server. We get the tools, and then we include the tools. That's it. Which is what makes this so awesome. Is if you get an MCP server, it becomes very easy to add that into any of your apps, and then to get all the functionality. Let's see if we can use the functionality. This is the moment of truth. Did the MCP server we built work, or is it a flop? Four five three four one three. 453413. Hi. Let's see if the chat works. First, is it still going to reply, or am I breaking the chat with these changes? We at least got to thinking. We're getting to reasoning. That sounds awesome. Let's see if we can ask something like, what's the information on USDT? And this should use that new server that we built from Mantle USDT info. Isn't directly related. I'll get you some info. Okay, so it's using Perplexity Ask. It is not using the new tool, the new SSE server that we built. So that's a little disappointing. Can you get TVL info using your TVL tool? So it looks like it does not have those tools that I was specifying. So it seems like our new changes are not working as expected. So it's currently not working. Let me try jumping over to Vercel to do a little bit of debugging, but this is going to be me wrapping up. This was not a successful build. We spent a lot of time on trying to get a UI. We spent a lot of time trying to shift this over to NextJS. We did not spend enough time getting the MCP server deployed, getting it tested inside of our app, etc. If we come into here, let's try to check out our logs and see if the logs are any helpful. I'm just seeing SSE connection closed 8 minutes ago. I'm not seeing anything recently. Did it ever deploy? Well, MCP server and chat. We're on next MCP. Well, I'm in the wrong Vercel account if I want to find that. Inspect. And then coming over to here, I add Recoup's first MCP server. So this does look correct. It just looks like it's not working. Hi, use your TVL tool for USDT, please. If it has that tool. I guess I should check if it does have that tool. But I really got to get out of here. I know I'm hanging around at the end. Lib. Maybe just token prices. I might have gotten rid of some of the other stuff. Oh, did it finally use it? Get USD TVL function. So it does look like we got it to work. I know I just kind of rugged and said that we didn't get it to work, but it does look like get TVL function, which doesn't require any parameters. And then it got that info. I'm going to try, what else can let me try to find that name so that it'll be easier for me to search some of the others. Okay, so here they are. Can you use your tool? And now let me try to jump over to Vercel, and we should now see inside of our logs, we are getting SSE requests, and it was accepted, and then we're publishing stuff back to it. So we're getting close. Let's see if that will get us that tool. Right now, it looks like default, it's using Perplexity Ask a Lot. The user is asking, I need to check the requirements. Looking at that, it requires a contract address, but I haven't given them a contract address. Overall, it does seem like it used it. So we have built an MCP server, we deployed it, and then we integrated it into our front-end app. I've never once said the word mantle, and you can see that it's pulling in and using the word mantle, which was part of the MCP definition. The next things I'm going to be doing now that I have an MCP server that we're deploying onto Vercel, I'm going to update this to be using Recoup information in our Recoup APIs instead of the mantle calls that it's using right now for on-chain USDT and USDC info. If you got any value out of this video, please click the like button, click the subscribe button. Let me know down below what MCP servers you're missing, or if there were any questions I didn't answer, leave those down below. I do actively check the comments, especially on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back soon.